we didn't forget to go this. So if you were like, hey, can you please finish that table with us? I will gladly do that, okay? So we'll run through real quick here. We looked at the fact the vertex is very important to us in this unit. The vertex is either the lowest point or the highest point in a parabola. And so it's going to be very important to us to find that later on. You're going to see this. This is going word problems, guys. This is all going towards word problems. And I already told you, these are the keystrokes, folks. This right here, this is very important to remember. Those are your keystrokes. That's how you will find it using the calculator. And you will become very comfortable with that in a bit. Trust me. And then the vertex gave us two things, right? It gives us the equation of the axis of symmetry, which is that vertical line that splits this parabola in half. And it also gives us the equation of the max in this case, or the min in this case, which also happens to go through the vertex, but in this case it's y equals a number. See that, right? So that's how they're different. And so they're actually equations, okay? It's the equation and equation, right? So those are lines. Those are almost imaginary lines that we use to kind of slice and dice, right? Our parabola. I will make sure you understand that. Look at the diagram up here. A parabola is always symmetric. Symmetric means you can cut it in half. And so what I mean by that is if there is a point here, it has a cousin on the other side, right here across from it as well. And both of these, like this distance here, is the exact same distance as from the center to the other side, right? So it doesn't matter which point you pick. If I pick this X-Intercept and I go to the center, sorry, I should do two lines like that, right? That distance will be the same as from the center to the other side, to the other leg, right? So always keep that in mind. That's going to be crucial for what's to come, okay? Right, and then next 7, we looked at the number of X-intercepts that can be present. And so there could be no X-intercept, one X-intercept exactly when it's on the X-axis, and then 2 X-intercepts. And it all has to do with the vertex and the way it's pointing. Okay, where is the vertex? Which way is it pointing? That's how we determine how many X-intercepts there are. All right, so now we're going to use our calculator. Fun stuff. I think you're going to like this. And grade 12 applied has, I would say, about a third of the course, maybe more, relies on knowing how to use your calculator and knowing how to graph things and how to extract information from that graph. So that's why I kind of spent more time on that. This is about 3 weeks, 2.5 to 3 weeks for this unit, okay? To determine the coordinates of the X-intercepts, we use y2 is equal to 0, second trace intersect. So these are the keystrokes, right? And I will ask you to, whenever it's asking you to show work, we are asking for the keys, like what did you press to get there? And I'm not, doesn't have to be exactly the way I show you here, as long as you give me enough. And I will kind of guide you through that, okay? Watch this. You may need to adjust your window, okay? You may need to adjust your window in order to see the intercepts. Being able to predict the behavior of the parabola by looking at the values of A and C can greatly assist you with this, right? The values of A and C can greatly assist you with this, okay? Determine the X-intercepts, Y-intercepts, and vertex of the following, okay? And I just have my notes here so I don't deviate. So come with me, grab your calculator, join me for this ride. So let's press Y equals here and clear everything that's on there. I know I told you to type stuff in there earlier. We're going to clear this. Let me see what I can do here. Hold on. Can I make this a little... Oh, there we go. So we're going to type this in. Be careful. Whenever you have the first leading a negative, you have to use negative in brackets. That's very important in this course. It's not minus, but negative. So I'm going to press the negative in brackets, 9.85, and this is your x variable, right? We talked about that on Friday. This is the x variable, that button right there, xt theta n. So that's your x variable minus. That's when you go minus, okay? That's everything afterwards. You can use the subtract symbol, but the first one has to be negative, okay? Oh, I forgot to square. Don't forget that, because is it a quadratic if you don't square it? No, it's a linear. You're gonna have a straight line, right? So if that ever happens to you, if you see a straight line, go back, right? Thank you for that. X minus 3. So that's what you type in. And notice that there is if I type negative, it looks different than the subtract, right? You can tell. I'm going to delete that though. Okay, so let's graph this thing. Hit graph. You should all see this. If you're not seeing this right now, just do it anyways. Zoom, and I'm going to press the number 6. Why am I pressing 6? Because 6 stands for zoom standard, Z standard. And it will automatically adjust your window to a -10. You're seeing -10 here, all the way to +10 in terms of your x-axis. And it's -10 here to +10 in terms of your y-axis. That's what zoom standard does. It kind of brings you back to just a regular standard window, okay? So to find the x-intercepts, this is what you do. I will write down x-intercepts. How many x-intercepts do we have, by the way? 2, right? This graph clearly tells you that it's crossing it twice. So we're going to use the keystrokes. Y2 is equal to 0, and we're going to go second, trace, and 5. Okay? Second, trace, 5. And let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go Y2. We're going to make that 0. So I press Y equals, right? And the second, I'm going to make that 0. And let's hit graph once, just so you see it. You have a colored screen, so that's kind of cool. You see that line that just... So that is your x-axis, isn't it? Your x-axis now is in like a red color, basically. You drew a line, y is equal to 0, which is a horizontal line going through 0. And now we can go second, follow me, second, trace, and we're going to use that intersect, which is the 5th option. Second, trace 5, and watch what it's asking you for here. The bottom is saying the first curve, by default, your cursor is going to be on whatever is on Y1. So what you do is you go side arrow. Let's say we want to find that first x-intercept right there. So I'm going to go side left, right, left arrow as close as possible to it. You don't have to be right on it. Like even if you go past it like that, it's still close enough. Okay? So anywhere in there, go arrow left or right, whatever you need to do to be close to that x-intercept. And then you press enter. Enter. What is it asking you for now? Second curve. Hey, give me a point on that second curve you just have on your calculator. And by default, it's gonna follow you. Wherever you pressed already, it's gonna follow you on that second curve. So we're just gonna hit enter. We're not gonna do. You could go side arrow. Watch. You could do side arrow if you want, but by default, it's just gonna follow you. So I'm just gonna hit enter. And guess, I don't know exactly what that is exactly doing, But my guess is that it's just saying, hey, do you want me to start finding it? And so we just hit enter. You never do anything other than hitting enter when it's asking you to guess, okay? And there is your intersection. Do you see that at the bottom, intersection? If you ever, let's say you're new to this, right? You press a button. I press 5, for example. Oh, now what happened there? You need to repeat this process. Once you type something and you erase that, so I'm going to go second trace 5. I'm going to hit enter, enter, enter again until I see that heading again, intersection with. And so that intersection is negative 1.29. You write that down, you round it to 2 decimals, and we expected y to be 0, right? Because it's an X-intercept. And let's go ahead and find our second one. You go second trace 5, and now I'm going to go arrow over the hill towards the other one. And again, you don't have to be right on it. Don't worry about that. And watch this. You basically hit enter 3 times. Watch what I do. Enter, enter, enter. And it's going to find that intersection. So basically, it's always going to be second trace 5, go to it, and then enter, enter, enter 3 times. And then it's going to pop up on your screen. We're going to do more of these. So I'm going to do one more after this. So don't panic too much right now. I'm just going to write that down. Negative 0. What is that rounded? 24, right? 0. There we go. So I have my X-intercepts. Done. And I'm going to box this in because it's kind of like these are my X-intercepts, okay? It's asking for vertex next. So let's do, right? It doesn't matter, but actually Y-intercepts it's asking for. And I will give you the keystrokes for Y-intercept. You know this already, right? Second trace 1, x is equal to 0. Because I know my Y-intercept will be 0, right? X will be 0, and I'm going to figure out the number. Can I just figure out the Y-intercept without the calculator? If you remember anything from Friday? Is this in general form? It's a bit early and it's been a long weekend. I'll remind you, no brackets, right? There are no brackets, so this is in general form. And we know that that value, whatever it is, it could be 0, by the way, but we know that this is our Y-intercept, right? We know that. But I'm going to show you how to use your calculator for it because you're going to need to know how to do it. So because it's not always in general form. So second trace value, right? So that's where we press 1. And then you type in x is equal to 0. Okay, and so let's hit enter. And it is negative 3 as we already predicted. Okay, so there it is. And I'll box that in too because right, this is my Y-intercept. And then vertex. You already know the keystrokes from the slide before, but here it is again. You got to go second trace. What are you going to use in this case? Second. Is this a min or a max? It's a max, right? Read it from left to right. Like highest point. So we're going to go second trace max. Could we have predicted this without graphing it? Yes, because a negative a value tells me it's pointing down, which means it's going to have it at the highest point, right? So there's a lot of things to check here that you know you're doing things right. So follow me. This one is a little bit more complicated. Let's make this straight. Second trace, sorry, try that again. Second trace, and we're going to use maximum, right? Hit enter. Careful here, okay? follow, make sure you watch. I'm going to zoom into this. Zoom, right? There you go. So what you need to remember is it's saying, give me a left boundary. Give me a point to the left of this vertex. And you're like, well, I know the vertex is right about there. So you're going to go to the left of it. Go left arrow. As soon as you're over the hump and you're going down, that's good enough. Okay. Oops, sorry. This is the vertex and I am to the left of it. So you hit enter. And immediately it changes to, hey, now give me a point to the right of that. So you're going to go right arrow over the hump. And now you're to the right, hit enter. And if you can tell, there are some dotted lines. You see those? They're hard to see, but you're basically telling, where's another pencil here? You're basically telling the calculator, I know the vertex is somewhere between these two lines. And you do the rest. The calculator is going to do the rest for us. So what do you do when you see guess? You just hit enter. And boom, right there it is. Those are the coordinates of our vertex. So it's negative 0.76, 2.74. Okay, so I'm going to write that down real quick here in our notes. Negative 0.76, 2.75, right? Did I say 7.4? No, it's 7.5 if you round. And now you found the three most important pieces of information on a parabola. Okay, these are the three most important things we're going to need on our parabola to get things right. Okay, now it's second go at it. Yeah, go ahead. Second go at it. Let's put this in. I'm just going to put this as in general form. And then the next one is going to be, this one is actually vertex form. Okay. So here it is. First step is, let's make some observations here. In this one, A is positive, so it's going to be pointing up. Is it going to be narrow or wide? I don't remember that, Mr. Dirksen. I did anything but math over the weekend, right? Remember, when A is bigger than 1, it's narrow, right? So A is greater than 1, narrow. So I don't want you to forget that, because that's going to help you later to find the window. Can I tell the Y-intercept off of this? No, you cannot. Okay. So let's type that into our calculator. There you go. Go to Y equals, clear. I'm going to ask you to clear everything for now, even though you're going to find out very quickly that y2 is equal to 0 is going to be a nice one to just keep there. But so you go 4.75, open brackets, x minus 5, close brackets, don't forget to square. So it doesn't matter how ugly that equation is, you type it in. Yeah. So hit graph. It's right there. Okay. So here, what are we going to find first? Let's do the x-intercepts first. And I will go through this. y2 is equal to 0. Second, trace 5. Okay. That's how we're going to do it. It looks as though there's only one, correct? It could be none, though. We don't know. And I did this on purpose because I want you to figure out another feature, which is another zoom feature. Okay, so let's come with me and press zoom. And you have lots of zooms. We're not going to use them all, but you see zoom in, right? Zoom in, the second option. Hit enter. And what you can do is you can now travel to any area you would like to zoom in to. So I want to know, is there an X-intercept, right? So I'm going to kind of zoom in to that point right there and hit enter. keep hitting enter as much as you need to. And I'm going to move my cursor closer to that. I'm going to go closer and closer. I think this is a bad example. It's a bad example. So what happens now? I don't know, I can't see it. Anybody zoomed in far enough that you can? Okay, so watch this. This is the part where you fix your problem. How do you see the whole thing again? What would you do? Zoom 6, zoom 6, zoom standard. So zoom 6. I have another way of finding this out. Let's go y2 is equal to 0 as we originally wanted to do this. You hit graph. You have to hit graph first, right? Then you go second trace 5. And you don't see the cursor, right? So what you need to do is look at the bottom of this. I'm going to go right arrow. See, when I go right arrow, my Y is coming down. So keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, there it is, right? So you got to kind of read these when it's outside of your screen. And now I'm just going to go as close as possible and hit enter, enter, and enter one more time. And what do you get? You get an error message, okay? That is saying that it can't find that there is no X-intercept. We just couldn't zoom in far enough to see it, okay? So here it is. Error, no X-intercept, okay? So don't worry about that. However, I see already what went wrong here. I didn't make that one addition, one correction. Can you do that with me, please? I'm going to do this. We're going to go -1 here at the top. Go -1 to this equation. We're going to erase the error message and that there is no X-intercept. That was my bad. I was supposed to fix that. I'm never going to make that happen. That's not going to be an issue you have to deal with. So we're going to go to y equals and go scroll all the way down to the right of this equation, all the way to the right. Make sure you're not in the exponent. You go right until you come back down to the main line. You're going to go -1. And then you're going to hit graph again. There you go. That's what you were supposed to see from the beginning. So we can tell that there are 2 X-intercepts, correct? So we're going to go second, trace 5. And again, my cursor is way up there. So watch, I'm going to go right arrow until you start seeing it. There you go. There it is, right? And I'm going to hit enter and see how it followed me on the second line. Enter, enter. So the first intersection is 4.540. And the second one, go ahead and try to find the second one. Keep going, arrow right. One more time. There you go. Yeah. If you're having issues, let me know, okay? I'll come and help you. You don't have to be in it off by a little bit like that, that's fine. Just keep hitting enter until it finds the intersection. Okay, so what you do when that happens, you start again. be right on it. So see how it's going arrow right in this case. And then close enough. That's close enough actually. Hit enter. Enter again. And one more time. That's what it is. Yeah. One second, I'm just going to pause this here. Here. Look at my screen real quick here. Second trace 5, right? When you go arrow up and down, watch this. Arrow up and down jumps curves. So if I go arrow up, it's actually going to jump to the red line. If I keep going arrow up, it's back to the blue one. You can do the same thing with arrow down. It's going to toggle between the two curves. So let's say your cursor is way up there somewhere, way up there, and you go arrow down, it then goes on the red line. So if you want to start with your red line, which is the horizontal, go as close as possible. Some of you want to be right on it. You don't have to be right on it. But then you hit enter. See how it followed you? You can just keep hitting enter. Trust me, it's going to find it. It's going to find it. It's maybe taking a little bit longer if you go too far away from it, but it's going to find it. Let's find the other side now. Second trace 5. I'm going to go closer to that one. Enter, enter, enter. And so that one is 5.446, sorry, 46, comma 0. So there are your X-intercepts. Okay. So that's X-intercepts. What about Y-intercepts? And I want you to write down the keys because that's how you're going to remember. Second trace 1, x is equal to 0. 1 is for value, right? It's the value function. And there's a problem here. Can you see the Y-intercept? You don't, right? The Y-intercept is going to go somewhere way up here, way up here. So you need to change your window. You need to change your window. And so this is where the window comes in. Can you press your window, please? And the only ones you need to worry about is X-min, X-max, as well as Y-min, Y-max. Those are the only 4 you need to worry about, okay? So right now we all press zoom standard, so see how it has a negative 10, 10, negative 10, 10, right? Which one should I adjust to be able to see my Y-intercept? The Y-max. And this is there's no science to this. I can't tell you press 50 and it will work. You have to explore. So I'm going to type in 50 and hit graph again and see if I can see the Y-intercept. So let's go ahead. Can you see it? Still not, right? But we're seeing more of the curve. So let's go to window again. We're going to go to Y-max. I'm going to change it to, I'm going to go 200. I don't want to play around too long, right? I'm going to go 200. Can you see it now? There it is, right? So I will say this, window, write this down, X-min, X-max, Y-min, Y-max, right? And so these ones, I kept the X-min, and you're like, I forgot my values. Go to window, right? It's negative 10, 10 for the X, right? But for the Y, it was negative 10, 200. That's what I used. You may have used different values. You may have done 150 and it would have worked. Okay? So I made a change to the Y max. Okay? Change. Okay? And now you hit graph again. And let's go ahead and find that one. Second, trace value, so number 1. And it's asking you for an X value. And we know that at this point, X is equal to 0. This will change down the road if you're finding other points. But there it is, 117.75. So it's 0, 117.75. Okay, exactly. So no need to guess there. No need to round, I should say. Okay, so that's another thing that you need to make sure your window. I will highlight the window. Okay, you might have to change it to make it fit. How do you get back to the standard? Zoom 6. Zoom 6 solves your problem. If you ever wander and you're like, oh shoot, I put in the wrong number and now it's like all messed up. I can't even see something, right? Zoom 6 gets you back, and then start changing again until you see what you want to see. Okay, so that's your Y-intercept. Box that in. And the last thing is our vertex. And that is, what was that again? Second trace. And in this case, what is it? Second trace, it's my min, right? It's the lowest, so I have to go min. If you type max, it's going to try to find it, but it's going to be wrong. Okay? Or you're going to get an error or something like that. So let's go ahead and do that. Second trace, I'm going to go third option. And left boundary, right? So are you on the left of the vertex right now? Are you to the left? Yeah. So you can press enter right there. Hit enter. And go past that point, and then because it's asking for a right boundary now, hit enter, enter again, and there it is. 5, -1. We round that, right? 4.99. We round that to 5. Okay, and there you have it. So some troubleshooting here. What could happen? What could go wrong here? Something that could go wrong is that you don't see your graph. Go to your window, right? Try to change values until you see it. You might not be pressing the right buttons, right? Make sure you go second trace and you hit enter until guess is gone, right? Things like that you want to watch out for. Press min or max accordingly. Only one of them will work. You can't, right? Only one of them will work depending on your graph. So let's go ahead and actually do some graphing. Actually, I need to first talk about domain and range. You remember domain and range from IPR? This will change when we do word problems. Okay. And this is a big, this will change with word problems or contextual problems, right? Word problems. Okay. When it comes to domain, okay, it refers to all permissible x values. Okay. So the set notation, there's set and interval notation. I don't know if you remember that. Set notation, you need to have the squiggly brackets, right? And what this is saying is x belongs to the real numbers. X is part of the real numbers. So that's basically saying all numbers are decimals, fractions, roots, anything goes, right? Interval notation would be from -infinity to +infinity. Okay, so for non-contextual problems, when it's not a word problem, this is your default. This is what we write down. This is your domain because it keeps on opening indefinitely. So let me just, for the domain, right? For the domain, it would be this here, right? And this here. So domain, I highlighted in pink. Right, so this is your domain and the domain here. And then I'm going to use green maybe for range. Range is different. refers to all permissible y values. So we're talking here and here, okay? Range, domain is the x values. And notice that the parabola opens up indefinitely. It keeps on opening, so that's why the domain is all numbers, because it would span negative infinity to positive infinity on both ends. But when it comes to range, things change, okay? I want you to write down vertex right here, vertex. So this would have an x and a y component to it. And same here, vertex. This has an x and a y component to it. So for set notation, I want you to do this, okay? Remember that you need to do set notations, need the squiggly brackets. And so in this first scenario, this one right here, the first graph, notice that the first y value is the y value of the vertex, and then it keeps going up, right? So in this case, you would write y would be greater than or equal to the y value of vertex, and then squiggly bracket. So that's going to be a number. Okay. Interval notation would be y value of vertex, comma, infinity. And I know this has been a while, right? COVID, all these things. But you need to make sure you have a square bracket for that initial value because it's included. But then you have, anytime there's infinity, you should never have a square bracket around infinity, right? You can't include it because you don't know when it ends. So it needs to have a round bracket there. On the other hand, when you have a parabola that's pointing down, right? This is A is positive. Here A would be negative, right? It's pointing down. In this case, Y would be less than or equal to, because remember, this is the highest Y value, and then every other Y value would be less than it. And so we write down squiggly brackets, Y is less than or equal to the Y value of the vertex. And then, oops, here. This is different. You actually go from negative infinity all the way to the Y value of vertex. And right now, you're probably like, what? I forgot all of this. Well, we'll do a bunch of examples and you'll see. So what I want you to write down here, note, okay, you always need to make sure smallest first, right, comma, largest second. Okay, that's very important. The smallest number always comes first, then the largest comes next. Okay. So for domain, if you ever are tempted to write down something like this because these values show up, right? You immediately should be like, that's wrong, right? Okay, this is wrong. It should be -2, 5, right? And your range, for example, if you ever have 7, negative infinity like this, what's wrong with that? Which one is smaller? Negative infinity is smaller, right? So this is wrong. You would have to put the negative infinity first and then 7 next. So that's the right way to do it. Go ahead. Are we good? Let's do a little bit of a few examples here. There should be arrowheads on your graph. Okay, so let's add them. So let's do the domain and range for this particular one. I'll let you do the other one by yourselves. So the domain and set notation, it would be the classic x is part of all real numbers. And this changes later with word problems. But for now, when there's just a graph given, you just go with that. So this is the easiest one of all. If you just remember that, add that to your study sheet perhaps. For range, we're talking y values, correct? And so you should recognize that this is the highest y value. Everything else is going to be less than that. So in this case, you go y is less than or equal to, and you use the, what did I use, green for range? Yeah, I used green, right? So basically, you would go from here down, right, for range. So including that and down. So that's 2 point, let's use the whole thing, 749 squiggly brackets. Okay. And interval notation, you have to go from smallest to largest. So it goes to negative infinity, and the highest point is 2.749. And here you got to make sure that the number gets the square bracket, infinity gets the round bracket. I'll let you do the other one for homework, okay? So we'll check that tomorrow. Domain is going to be the same. It's just the range you have to think what's going to happen there. Okay. Because I really want to do some graphing before we go. Really want to do some graphing on paper. Okay. So we're going to fill in this chart, and then we're going to graph this real quick. Okay. So what form is it? General. That's right. Let's do this. General, no brackets. Opening. A is negative, correct? So it's down. Yeah. Width. Wide, narrow, normal. In this case, A is actually between 0 and 1. So this is a wide parabola. No calculator as of yet. Y-intercept. Can I just steal it? Can I just go and get it? Yes. I can just go and get that from my general form. This is C, right? I will do this. Way up here, guys. A is negative 0.5, comma, B is 25, comma, C is negative 200. Negative 200, right? So the ABC's right there, written. What's the vertex? I need my calculator. So we're going to go second, trace. Is it going to be a min or a max? It's pointing down, right? So it's a max. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm recording this, so if I go a little bit faster than, oops, y equals clear everything, I'm going to type in negative 0.5 x squared plus 25x minus 200. I'm going to graph this thing. Mr. Dirksen says something wrong with my calculator. No, it's not. Zoom 6. Mr. Dirksen, there's still something wrong with my calculator. So you need to expand your window. Okay. So I will put down window settings here. window, and I'm going to play around with the window first. Okay, so I'm going to go press window. Which way do you think this is? Oh, is it going this way? Or what am I? I'm only seeing a leg, right? It's pointing down, right? So there's my gut feeling tells me that this is doing this, right? So I need to change my X min and my Y max. Does that make sense? Because Y min limits this, Y max limits this. So let's go to my window one at a time. I'm going to go X min negative 100. Negative, not minus, because you're going to get an error. Still nothing. Negative 200. I'm going to go further up now. So I'm going to go Y max. I'm going to go 200 as well there. Up, positive, right? Still not working. So I'm going to have to go further up. I'm going to go 1,000 with my Y max and hit graph. Still nothing. Did I type in something wrong? Mr. Dirksen, I think you typed in something wrong. Aha. You see that? Were you seeing it already? And you weren't telling me? Yikes. That's what I get for rushing. I was already thinking, like, I'm pretty sure I didn't make that question that crazy, so I'm going to go zoom 6. There it is. But which way is it opening? Down still, right? So now I'm expecting it doing this. So you were right. I was wrong, big time. X max. There it is. I went to 100. It's overkill. It's overkill. I could have gone 50, and you're already packing. So I have to just take my losses and stop it here. We'll resume tomorrow. Actually,